So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the payroll process training that we have. The training that we have is designed over a span of 8 sessions. So, we will be taking it in depth. We will be focusing on each of the areas in depth so that there is a lot of clarity. By the time we end the training, you should be able to have a lot of clarity on how payroll processes work, because this is one of the most important functions that HR has. Okay, so now first we will start with knowing what is human resource management. All of us are from the domain of human resource management. We all know that it is a set of activities which are right from recruitment to selection of the employees to providing them with the orientation and induction, providing them with proper training, employee engagement, and in a nutshell, developing their skills and taking care of them. So, all of us in our own job roles have been associated with human resources over the last few years and have been taking care of all these things, such as performance appraisal, proper compensation benefits, encouraging and motivating the employees, maintaining proper records with regards to labor laws and trade unions, and taking care of the employee safety, welfare, and health by complying with the common laws. However, the last year was, as I am sure it has impacted all of us tremendously, right? The pandemic, which came so, like unexpectedly, has somewhere or the other impacted all of us, and even today we are trying to come out of it. We are trying to come back to a normal life. So before we move into payroll directly, I will be showing you a video on what are the forecasted upcoming HR trends for 2021, because we all are from HR domain, so it is only good that if we get to know what are the upcoming trends that we have.
Point is, what's
Can
going
you
to be
hear
the
it
next big
now?
thing in HR? In this video, I'm going to call out 10 things that you need
Yes,
to know about in the world of
So,
HR.
and you can view it also, right?
yes.
Greg here from Streamline HR Solutions, and I'm about to share my predictions for HR trends that will be prominent in 2021 and beyond. So as I lay these out, leave a comment below on trends you agree or disagree with. Bonus points if you bookmark this video and watch it again next year to see where I was right and where I was wrong. So let's get to it. Coming in at number 10 is the gig economy. We've been hearing about the gig economy for a few years. It is come on strong. Forbes reports that 36% of American adults engage in some sort of gig work. Uber and Lyft driving are two of the most common gig economy roles. Also, people are starting to hang their shingle outside their door to pick up side work. I've done this myself by conducting market pricing for some nonprofit organizations that reached out to me. I've also served as an adjunct professor at a local university. Sometimes it's the money, other times it's the experience. I think we've hit a bit of a technology plateau on this one. So while the gig economy is still strong, we're not going to see a meteoric continuance of the rise until we work through some of the legal challenges and further development of technology to pair up gig workers with those that need their services. Number 9 is analytics. The future of HR is in its technology and how companies leverage it. Organizations are studying the workplace like a doctor studies a patient. The data is getting better and more robust for the analytics to tell a more complete story. Tools like R and Python give data analysts better opportunity to conduct complex analysis. And that's right, I said data analysts. We're starting to see more people coming into HR that have mathematical and analytical capabilities. But more on that in a second. For number 8, we're going to be seeing more organizations reevaluating the design of their HR support model. They will streamline processes in HR support by using more shared services and automation. Repetitive tasks will be automated. Processes that can be completed by following a flowchart will be candidates for migrating to shared services environments. As companies look for ways to control costs, shared services and automation will provide relief on the budgetary front. The challenge will be ensuring quality delivery of those services. Talent, learning, and development comes in at the number 7 spot. As jobs evolve, yesterday's skills are no longer good enough to perform at an acceptable level. As businesses strive to increase profitability, they look towards greater efficiency as the answer. To be efficient, organizations must learn not only how to most effectively train their employees, but also how to identify the important skill sets and even skills adjacent to those hard to find skills. When your team doesn't have a hard to find skill, your management and HR team must be able to determine if it makes more sense to pay a premium to get the skill hired in, or if it is better to train internal people with the aptitude to perform the role. HR can play a big part in these conversations, which is why you will see more companies leaning on people that can make these determinations. The number 6 category is the employee experience. The employee career journey will need to reinvent itself to cater to the colleagues' interests, all while meeting organizational goals. Several progressive companies have been focused on this category for years, hoping to extend the work life and employee satisfaction of their colleagues. Some have called this next evolution job crafting, but it goes beyond that. It also includes how the employee uses their resources. Are their tools all disconnected, or are systems being made in a more integrated fashion? Many companies have really begun paying attention to the employee experience, with the more progressive referring to one's work experience as an employee journey. By improving and simplifying the employee experience, colleagues can turn their attention to enhanced productivity. The number 5 trend will be continuing to grow reliance on centers of excellence and streamlining the traditional HR business partner role. It used to be that the HR business partner was responsible for everything. In many small and mid-sized organizations, it's still that way. But I predict the number of people filling the generalist role will diminish as they rely on more specialists to provide expertise in the specialty areas. Think of it this way. Each center of excellence is increasing in complexity, but the technology is leveraged to support those roles increasing. The skill sets like data analysts, legal experts, technology wizards, and total reward specialists will be in high demand. And yes, I'm talking about in the HR department. It is no longer viable to have a one-person shop be an expert in everything while utilizing industry best practices. Business partners will be like consultants that will call on their cadre of specialists to provide guidance on projects requiring extensive expertise. Top trend number 4 is the future of work design. Before the pandemic, many employers were only lukewarm at best in allowing people to work from home more than a day or two each week. Now fast forward, and more companies are talking about unloading large amounts of real estate commitments and considering more flexible work options. Will jobs be forced to return to the office permanently after the pandemic? Will all employees forever stay remote? Well, the answer is probably somewhere in between. And HR will be heavily relied upon to deliver a workable solution that saves the company money while maintaining productivity. This brings us to the number 3 trend, HR systems. The day of every HR department picking out their own software is going the way of the dinosaurs, if it hasn't already gone that way. We've seen the result of having a recruiting system that doesn't connect to the compensation system, that doesn't connect to payroll. Organizations are looking for efficiency. They're looking at how to build out a system that provides the best opportunity to produce critical analytics. And they are looking for ways to automate processes in a consistent way, while minimizing integrations between countless systems. Even the employee experience can be influenced by good or bad system. That's where the relevance of HCMs come into play. Make no mistake about it, human capital management systems are a big deal in HR. With companies spending budgets in the millions for these systems, support staff, and outside consultants, HR systems are a critical cog in the HR machine. They are a cog that can't afford to fail, which is why so many resources will continue to be put into them. While trend number 4 was work design, number 2 goes beyond the work design and focuses on the actual physical and mental well-being of the workforce. Going forward, HR teams will expend a lot of resources dealing with the significantly increased stress levels that have impacted most employees and their families. The HR team will be called upon to determine how to best leverage resources for the benefit of employees, from expanding employee assistance programs to finding ways to ensure employees stay healthy. HR will be called upon to be proactive in this endeavor. Given the pandemic we are coming out of, I see this as the number two trend for HR in 2021. With the number one spot going to, drumroll please, diversity, equity, and inclusion. With the number of social conversations currently going on, I don't even think this is close. Diversity, equity, and inclusion will be the number one area of focus for most HR organizations in 2021. This will be seen in recruiting practices, the way companies approach employee development and engagement. Pay practices will be evaluated as well as organizational breakouts to include leadership demographics and representation. For businesses to work effectively, their employees must have 100% confidence that the organization is behind them and provides a fair and equitable path to develop within the organization. So what did you think of the trends I listed? Did I rank any too high or too low?
Okay, so these were the trends that are forecasted for the 2021. And did you get the gig economy? So the person spoke about the gig economy. Anybody knows about it? So the new trend that we can see that is coming up will be of people who will be more focused on doing short-term work, freelance work, because we all know that last year has been very harsh. We had so many people who lost out on their jobs. Somewhere or the other, people have lost trust that the organization will take care of them. Somewhere there are people who have to take care of the families. So this is a trend which is here to stay. So gig economy, and when we speak about from an HR point of view, we speak of an employment contract. It is clearly mentioned that you cannot take up multiple job roles, right? So that is a part of the contract that we have. So it is yet to see how do we work out on that, because legally there will be a lot of things that the HR has to put into it, because people now will be more motivated to do some freelance work. Many times, and not that even amongst us when we sit in the virtual classroom today, I'm sure this thought must have come to most of our minds, a small bit of money here and there if we could do, because the one thing that pandemic has taught us is that things can happen abruptly overnight and anything can change. So how do we deal with it? So yeah, the 10th point that he mentioned was very important, that is the gig economy. And as a payroll person as well, we need to know that how should we handle it, because there will be people who will be not coming to work on time, or who will be taking their day off, and they will be trying to work on some other stuff to earn that extra money. The ninth point that you mentioned about analytics is again why we all are here today. HR is seeing a lot of trend in terms of analytics. There are a lot of new softwares which are being launched, and people are all the organizations are moving in to take up those. If you speak about Tejasri's company, for example, they were outsourcing their payroll till now, and now they are trying to do it in house. Now, if they try to do it in house, definitely they will have to rely on a particular software. And if she is taking up that initiative of learning the payroll, definitely she has to be the subject matter expert who will be the coordinating point between that particular organization who is giving the payroll and the organization. So she will be in charge of taking it, like she has to ensure that whatever data is coming in and whatever data is being fed into the payroll system is absolutely accurate, and the people are able to get their salaries and their salary slips and everything on time. The other point that was mentioned was about shared services and automation. So this was a brief about about HR, and now we go to the payroll management system. That how do we so this is a basic introduction of the payroll management. So processing payroll for any organization is the most important function, and it necessitates the understanding of the current regulations, detailed tax knowledge to ensure proper withholding and filing, and a highly organized system that can be relied upon to pay each employee the right amount of money. Depending upon the size of the business, the payroll department may have one or more employees who are going to deal with the entire, they're going to take care of all the experience and the responsibilities. So now, from your basic understanding that you have, so when we speak about payroll management, so what are the areas that you are generally, what are the points that you are considering when you are speaking of having a payroll? So what is the first thought that comes to your mind? Yeah, so when we are speaking about the salaries that are there, so we are speaking about what all are the changes in the salary information that you would be putting in the payroll. So the basic salary, the HRA. Other than that, in the payroll, so you are going to take care of the new hires who have come into the organization, the promotions that have taken place, the internal transfers, and the increments that might have happened, right? Yeah, so the points to be considered for the payroll is first of all gathering all the salary related information. So it could be your new hires, it will be your leavers who have left the organization, the promotions that have taken place, any kind of transfers that have happened, the leaves that the person has availed, or the leave without pays that he might have availed, the increments and everything. Right now, when you get all that information, you update this information into the payroll system, and then you have to ensure that the salary is disbursed accurately and in a timely manner in line with the statutory guidelines that are there from the government of India. So these are the points that you would consider for the payroll system. Now the information which has to be gathered before starting a payroll system. So now, for example, if we take an example where we don't have an internal payroll system, for example, we take Tejashri's example again, wherein she said that till now the payroll is was being outsourced, but now the company is looking at bringing the payroll within the company. So now, when she is going to start off with the payroll system in the company, what are the steps? What are the various steps that she is going to first take into consideration? The first one is gathering and updating all the information related to the organization. Now, what would those information be? So, what are those information you think that are important from the organizational point of view that you would like to put into it? Okay, so now what are the organizational details that you will be putting in? So first of all will be the, so now you are registering your organization into the payroll system. So now, till now you did not have any payroll system active in your company. Now you have bought, let's say, ABC company's payroll system. So now first step is to register your company's details into the payroll system. So what is the first thing that you will start? So registration number of the company comes from which act of the Indian government? So which act?
Company Registration Act,
Company Registration Act of which year?
1949 or 1940.
2013.
Okay.
So for all the participants, so keep a note that we have to get the company registered. So there is the Company Registration Act of 2013, under which you have to mention that number when you are going to install the new payroll system. Then what are the other details that you need? So the company name, the address of the organization, the bank details of the company. Then you get the type of the company, that whether it's a private limited company or what is it, the size of the employees registration number, and the TAN number. So now, can anybody tell me what is the full form of TAN? So TAN means tax deduction and collection account number. So like for individuals, we have the PAN number. So for organizations, we have the TAN number. So now when we speak about getting the payroll onboarded into our organization, so these are some of the details which we need from the company side. So the company's name, the address, bank details, type of the company, size of the employees, registration number. So that is the act of 2013. Then you have the TAN number, that is a tax deduction and collection account number. So these are from the company side. Now, from the employee details, what are the details that you will need? The employee information will be. Anybody can share it. Let's do it a bit interactive. Otherwise, it's going to be boring to be sitting for so long.
Employee name,
Okay, yeah. Employee name.
employee ID,
Yes, employee ID.
employee qualifications,
Qualifications, would you put it in the payroll? You can.
Don't think so for
Number
payroll.
designation,
Yes, so the designation,
department,
department,
Account number. will be
yeah, bank account number, very important for the money to go in.
And the span number.
PAN number,
PAN number,
and his UAN number,
which one?
UAN number,
UN number, yes, UN number. Then you have the marital status and also the medical facility, right?
yeah.
Medical insurance, if the person has a medical insurance, all those numbers have to be going into that. Okay, so now this is the two parts. So first is registering the company on your payroll, and the second part is registering the employee information in your payroll system. So this is the first step that we take whenever we are speaking about taking into consideration the the launch of the payroll in our organization. The third thing that we have to take into consideration, so now the information that has to be gathered before starting a payroll system is first of all gathering and updating all the information related to the organization, gathering and updating all the information related to the employees, and then gathering the information regarding to your last payroll. Why is that important? That is important because you need to have a backup. So basically, if you are launching the payroll for the first time in your organization, you need to have the hard copy of the details regarding the last payroll system that was in the organization, so that the people are aware about it. Like basically, the payroll person, the payroll master is aware about it, and in case of any goof ups that may happen, you have something to fall back upon. Okay, so now we go to the next. Is it clear till now? So now we go to the payroll process chart. So the payroll process starts first of all with the input payroll. Input the payroll monthly changes. So what are the basic changes which have happened over the month? So you need to input that into the system. So what could be those changes? Yeah, your salary increment. So whatever we spoke a bit just some time back, so the salary increments, any kind of transfers, promotions, new hires, leavers, all those information, the leave system, the whatever leaves the employees have availed, all that system has to be entered into your payroll monthly changes. That detail has to be verified, so that will be verified by the payroll master. So whether all the system, all the changes that have been mentioned or that the HR has provided, are they correct or incorrect? And once that is verified, then you go to the output. So the output are the various payroll reports that are generated at the end of the month. So let us go through them in one by one. So payroll input, the first one is your attendance, right? So now let me know what are the attendance systems that you follow in your organization. Okay, all right. So you see over here we have the classic example. So we have the various types of attendance systems that are being followed. So what are the various types? So we have the app based system, we have a card system which was used a couple of years back. Some organizations still follow the card system. We have the key FOBs. So key FOBs are RFID installed systems, which it is like a key ring, and the employees can use that to log in, like basically punch in and punch out. And then we have the biometric system as well. I believe that during the pandemic, most of you all must have seen a lot of change in the biometric system because of the contactless login, check-in, check-out system. Many organizations have gone back to the register format, wherein they are following the register system. The register system, unfortunately, makes work for us HR people a bit more hectic, because we have to go through that, and it is not a very easy task, I would say, because it takes a lot of your hard work as well as to go through. And especially when you are dealing with people who are maybe just they're just scribbling over it, so to decipher it again becomes a very, very tedious task. But yes, let's hope, let's see that how it changes, especially with the app system. Yeah, so attendance, then you have the new joiner information. So in all the details regarding to the new joiners, so that is your employee number, the name, address, the UAN number, PAN number, medical insurance number, blood group, your marital status. So whatever details we had shared in the slide before. So all the new joiner information. Then you have you have to input the leavers details. So if you have people who are leaving your organization, so what is the last working day, what are the salary advances that the person might have taken, or any dues that the person might have, what are the leave adjustment, because whether how many PLs he's spending with, how many CLs he's spending with, and how is he adjusting his notice period against that. So all that information has to go into the payroll system. Then is your overtime. So calculating the overtime details. If your organization is paying out overtime, so you can, in the payroll, you can mark the day as, let's say, 9 hours a day or 10 hours a day, and beyond that, whatever time the person checks out from the organization gets marked as the overtime. Some of the organizations, unfortunately, do not follow the overtime system. So in that case, you need to keep it flexible, and the regular check has to be done by the HR payroll master to ensure that the overtime is not getting picked up. Because most sometimes the employees, what they do in biometric, I think you all must have faced it, that they are punching in but they're forgetting to punch out, and the next day when they punch in, it shows as a punch out. So that regular check has to be there to ensure that this problem is not faced. Then in case of any transfer, so that has to be inputted into the system. Promotions, salary changes, advance salary, leaves without pay, or and also the investment declaration for the TDS deduction. So these are the areas which you would input into the payroll every month. So that is your monthly input that you are doing into the system. So after the input, what was the next step? So the payroll master has to validate or verify that whether all these steps have been, like whatever data has been put into the payroll system, whether it is accurate or not. Now, once that is done, comes your output. So for your output, the payroll output, that the reports that will be generated will be your bank transfer report, your TDS report, regarding the taxes that have been deducted from the employees, the salary slips, the payroll register, the provident fund report, the ESI report, and the labor welfare report. So these are some of the points that are coming out from the payroll after the payroll system has been closed and the salaries have been generated. So for the labor welfare report also, that from the labor department, there are regular checks which are done to ensure that everything, all the paperworks are compliant. Plus, some of the states also have the labor welfare fund, which is deducted from the employee's salary. So that is again a part of your payroll processing. So whether those things are being, or whether the organization is abiding by them or not. So those are again taken care of in your output section. Okay. So till now, what we have discussed is, first of all, how do we launch a payroll in an organization? So when we are launching a payroll, we have to put in the organization details, we have to put in the employee details, and then we have to take into consideration our last payroll system or the last payout that had happened. After we have done all that, we are putting in the monthly input changes into the payroll. Then we are validating or verifying it. And then comes the output section wherein we are generating the various reports based upon the payroll. So after this comes the HR planning for the payroll budget. So payroll budget is a very important part, because the most expensive thing that the organizations have these days is the labor expense. So labor expense is the major thing. So what is the payroll budget? What do you think should be your payroll budget? What is the payroll budget in your organizations of the revenue? So ideally, about 20 to 30% of the revenue that you have is your payroll budget. So basically, if an organization is, let's assume it's doing 100 rupees revenue. So basically 30 rupees has to be invested in your payroll. So that is the 20 to 30% has to be your payroll. Now for service based organizations, it is a bit more. So for example, for hotels, restaurants, which are service oriented organizations, the payroll cost is a bit high, because there we have people who have to provide the service. So when we are not speaking about automation, we are speaking about payroll budgeting. So if there is no automation, then the payroll cost will definitely go up a bit. But in a general, if you take a formula, so whenever you as an HR manager will be designing your payroll budget, you have to know that what is the organization revenue, and approximately 20 to 30% of that revenue has to be set aside for your payroll budget. Okay. Okay. Now, if we say that about 20 to 30% has to be your payroll budget, now when we speak about, and we said that payroll is the biggest expense, the biggest chunk of expense that an organization is doing, right? So as HR managers, as human resource business partners, your primary task is to ensure that your payroll budget is not going too high. You are able to control that. Now, what are the steps that you would take to ensure that you're able to reduce your payroll budget? How will you ensure that? So, for example, if you are spending, let's say, 6 lakhs in a month on your payroll, that payroll means giving employees the salaries, right? So approximately 6 lakhs in a month is what you are spending on the employee salary. So how will you ensure that month on month it is not going too high and you are able to control that expense? What are the steps that you will take as an HR person? You are talking about upskilling or cross training also. So, for example, you already have some people who are taking care of, let's say, yours is, for example, a manpower planning organization. So, you have people who are doing multitasking. So, they're taking care of recruitment as well as of training. So, then in that case, you are saving on your payroll cost. Okay. What are the other steps? So technically, you have to update your organization, technical advancements. Then comes your attrition rate control. Because if you have, because already if a person has joined you on X amount of money, so year on year you are giving the person an increment. But all of us know that if that person leaves and we hire a replacement, generally the replacement comes on a much higher rate, right? So the best thing is to reduce your attrition, to keep your attrition into control. Use more of technology to reduce the cost, encourage cross training or upskilling. So these are some of the ways that you can ensure to control your payroll budget. Okay, so payroll budget input forms are considered a key part of the annual budget models and are used by HR and budget managers to develop salary, expense, and hiring plans. Some key functionality in this type of budget template allows the user to quickly generate departmental employee budgets by entering or adjusting annual salaries for salaried staff and the hours or rates for hourly employees. Along with the other options, all the employee related taxes and benefits are automatically calculated based on assumptions captured on another stream. So payroll budget is basically going to be your annual agenda. So every year you need to prepare your payroll budget, keeping into consideration various other factors. So we'll come to that when we move to the next slide. So the next slide that we have is your compensation management. Now, what is compensation management? Compensation management is basically, so you are doing the payroll is the second part, right? So first part is your compensation management. So compensation management, if you speak of, is how do we give the employees the compensation that they deserve in the best market price that is available. So compensation management is more to do with a lot of research and a lot of study that goes into it. So compensation is the pay that is provided by an employer to an employee in return for the work that they are doing. Now, a compensation that we speak of has two parts. One is your fixed pay and the second one is your variable pay. So all the organizations these days in the CTC, we see that there is a fixed component of the salary and there is also variable component which is based upon your performance, and also the bonus section which comes into it. Now, how do we come across the compensation? So when we are developing the compensation or when we are building the compensation model, so what are the factors that we will keep in consideration? incentives and overtime. So first of all, we are trying to do the compensation management in terms of the it's the first step, right? So we have not yet gone to the payroll. So when we speak about overtime and all, it will come into the payroll. So the first step is you are preparing the base. So you have the organization. So compensation management basically means that whatever you are paying to the employee, that is justifiable as far as his or her skills are concerned, as well as the market standard. So whenever we are building up a compensation model, we have to take into consideration the internal alignment. So which means that the internal people that you have, how are their skills mapped and how are their alignments proper. So to do that, you have your job analysis, you have your job descriptions. Based upon all of that, you align, basically you internally align them, right? The second one is your external competitiveness. So what is the market offering? So you cannot offer them less, or because if you are paying them less, the attrition rate will go up. Or you cannot give them more, because then you are actually destroying the market. The job market is getting destroyed. So you have to build your compensation model based upon your internal alignment, your external competitiveness, and when you come take all of this into consideration, that is when you come across and do a proper compensation management. So compensation management is basically how you are paying to the team members, how you are paying to the associates. Now we come to employee transfers and promotions. So transfers means any job change in the assignment. Transfer basically causes a shift of the individual from one job to another, with or without there being any salary or pay package changes. Right, so it could be a lateral movement, any person who is changing the department, let's say getting transferred internally without moving the location. It could also be a interstate transfer that has happened. So transfer is the movement of an employee from any one job to another, or from one city to another, and much without any significant increase in the income. And a promotion, rather, on the other hand, a promotion definitely comes with a change in responsibility and change in the income pattern. So these are some of the basic overview that we are going through before we totally dive into the the statutory norms and the mathematical part of the payroll. Then comes your performance appraisal and your increment process. Right. So appraisals and salary increment are two different things. The process of appraisal emphasizes on assessing the individuals on the basis of certain skills and competencies which are required to perform their job, and on the basis of the KRAs. KRAs are your key result areas, or we also call them as the KPIs. What are KPIs? So either your KRAs or your KPIs. So once your appraisal process is done, the individual comes to know about his or her strengths and weaknesses. And whereas the increment in the salary is a part of the compensation, planning process and inputs from appraisal are required while deciding on the increment in the salary. So this was all about your performance appraisal and your increment process. Okay, so this is so we saw the monthly CTC we were looking at was 15,000, which is an annual of 1,80,000, right? So now since it is 15,000, so it comes into the bracket of ESIC, and the PF is of course there for all employees. So when we see the monthly CTC of 15,000, so our basic becomes 6,000. So that is 40% of your this salary. So basic is 6,000, HRA becomes 3,000, conveyance remains the same at 1,600. Then comes your medical reimbursement. As we said, we are not giving the person any medical reimbursement because he is getting an ESIC contribution. Now the PF that is deducted is 720 rupees. Correct. Now you were giving him a bonus of 500 rupees. So now what happened was to take out your ESIC. Now the trick is that your ESIC will be calculated on this amount. So the ESIC is not calculated on your basic salary. ESIC gets calculated on the wage that you're earning. Now, what is your wage? Your wage is something which is your gross salary. So that is basically the salary which is including your basic, your HRA, and all the other allowances that are there. Okay, so that is what is your total wage, because ideally if you see like many years back, about 10 years back, ESIC was ideally started for people who were earning 10,000 rupees. Now slowly over the last 10 years we have seen the bracket going up from 10,000 to 21,000 now. Okay, so about in 2009-10, it was only people who were getting 10,000 salary. So those were people who were mostly, they were doing the blue collar jobs, right? So for them, you if you tell them basic ka itna percent katega and all that, so that will complicate their mind. So that was one of the reasons that they had made it on a wage. So the wage was basically what you are getting, your basic, your HRA, and all of your allowances. So now when we go back to the structure again, and if you see it, so what you will see is your basic was is very very clear because it's 40%. Your HRA is 3,000. Your conveyance is 1,600, and special allowance is basically when you are getting it. If you remove it, your special allowance, if you remove it, so you will be able to see it. So then you can't even put your ESIC over here because you have put this much, and then you have put employees provident fund contribution, which is 12% of your basic salary, and your bonus was this. So now you got here was what, 11,820. So now if I see 11,820, so 15,000 minus 11,820 is 3,180. So now if I put 3,180 over here, so my this one was becoming 15,000, but again I have to take out the ESIC. So ESIC, if I put it over here as 3.25, so 0.0325 into this. So I am getting this much. So how much is the differential amount? Of somewhere around 448 rupees. So basically from 3,180 I have to remove 448. Okay, so again we do it, yeah. So now क्या किया है? हाँ. So we are removing the special allowance because that is your balance amount, and we are removing our ESIC contribution. So we have our basic, we have our HRA conveyance allowance, which is as per the government regulation. So that comes to 10,600. Now we have our employment EPF contribution, which is at the rate of 12% of your basic salary. So now that also you've got your bonus. So now when you add up these three things, so your amount comes to 11,820. When you get 11,820 from 11,820, but your CTC is 15,000, right? Am I going too fast or is it fine? So now what happens is we remove from 15,000, say we are removing 11,820, so we are getting 3,180. So now if I add in 3,180 over here, so it comes to 13780. So that makes it 15,000. But that is not what we're looking at, because we have to take out the ESIC contribution from the CTC structure. So 0.0325, right? So we get 0.0325 into this amount is my ESIC contribution. Now when I do that, so I have to round it off first. So I make it 448. Okay. So it goes up by 448 rupees. So my 3 from here, from 3,180, I have to remove 448. So which is 27. Okay, so what we did was we removed the special allowance and we removed the ESIC. Okay, so now this is the basic structure that we have been practicing over last few times. So basic, HRA, conveyance. So this much we are clear. Special allowance will be the balance amount which we have to put in. Medical reimbursement we are not putting in. Employees contribution is 720 rupees, and the bonus that we have got. Now my CTC comes to 11,820. But my CTC, my desired CTC was 15,000 rupees. So if I remove 15,000, say 11,820, so I get 3,180, which I put it as special allowance, because my ESIC was getting calculated on my wage, which is your component A. So your ESIC will be dependent on this. So I have to put in 3,180. When I put in 3180, you see my CTC becomes 15,000, but my ESIC I have not yet put in over here. So to put in the ESIC, I have to put 0.0325, which is 3.25% of my this salary portion. So B14 ka. So then it comes to 447.85. So I will round it up to 448. When I round it up to 448, so obviously which was 15,000 earlier, it goes up by 448. So that means from 3180, I have to remove 448. So here I have removed from 3180, I have removed this extra 448 money. So then I get 2732. So then if I make it as 2732, so I get my structure over here. So what we can do is CTC structures. So we are left with still the gratuity part, right? So we practiced about a normal CTC structure without any bonus. We practiced one with the bonus. We practiced one with the ESIC structure, and we practiced one with. We have not yet done one with the gratuity. So now, generally, most organizations do not put in the gratuity in your CTC structure because that is not a good thing to do. Because gratuity is basically paid out as a gratitude. Okay, for any employee who has given 5 years of service, the organization should be paying the gratuity. But some small organizations, what they do is to make the CTC look beautiful, they add the gratuity component also into it, and the employee generally gets fooled because nobody nowadays sticks around for 5 years. Most of the people, they shift job within 1 or 2 years, right? So that money is basically not there. So it is a virtual money for you because it is showing in the CTC, but that money you are never going to get it. So that's why it is not a good practice to put in the gratuity component, but still you can put in the gratuity component. If you are putting it, that has to come in when you are putting your bonus, and below your bonus comes your gratuity segment. So gratuity is calculated at the rate of 4.8% of your basic salary. So that is again on your basic. So the main problem that we face generally is with the ESIC.